Hey, yeah.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City of Kingston Planning Board meeting. Today is Monday, November 18th, 2024. My name is Suzanne Cahill. I'm the Planning Director for the City of Kingston. Just a few quick announcements before we start the meeting. I just ask everybody that if you do have a cell phone, if you would please silence that so that it doesn't interrupt the meeting. If you do have any conversations that you need to have outside of those with the planning board, we do ask that you take them outside of the room. I believe the chambers will be occupied with finance or conference room two. Okay, so please use the council chambers. The restrooms are through the chambers. Men's would be to your left, women's to your right on the opposite side of the chamber. If we do have an emergency, please use the stairs, not the elevator. If you do need assistance, we do ask that you ask us and we'll help you out. I do want to let everybody know that the meeting is being live streamed and it is also being recorded. So please, remember that when you're speaking, and respect the other speakers at any time. With that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Chairman Wayne Platt to introduce the members, and we'll call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m.
Thank you, Suzanne. Introductions. Again, my name is Wayne Platt Jr. We also have Charles Polacco, Robert Jacobson, Vince Archer, Sage Newkirk, Andrew Harris, and Kyra Grundy. We've already met Suzanne Cahill, our planning director. We have Kyla D-Day, who's the assistant planner. Matthew Jankowski is assistant corporation counsel, and Alderman Sarah Passy is our common counsel liaison to the planning board. Item number 1 on the agenda is the adoption of the October 21st, 2024 planning board meeting minutes. Everybody's had an opportunity to look at them. Any questions, comments, deletions, or additions on them? Seeing none, at this time, I'll make a motion that we adopt the October 21st, 2024 planning board meeting minutes. Do I have a second? Second by Charles Polacco. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried?
Sage will be.
Yeah, she's in. Okay, Sage? Okay. All right, public hearings. Item number 2 is 256 Washington Avenue. It's a special permit renewal for operation of a 10-room boarding house on a property also containing 47 residential units. Section block and lot is 56.90-4-36, seeker determination. Transect zone T4N, this is Ward 3, 256 Washington House, LLC is the applicant owner. Anybody besides the applicant owner wishing to speak on item number 2? Okay, Mr. Steinmeier's here. How are you?
Very good. Yourself?
Good. This is only a public hearing. We're not even going to be discussing the matter, so
Okay.
Nobody's stood to speak. So this is going to be.
This is an administrative review, since there are no changes, so only the public hearing had to take place this evening. The one thing that we would ask, John, is, and we've talked to the owners already, is to get the building department to do their inspection, because we will need that for our administrative review.
Okay.
So I believe that they were going to reach out and arrange for that to be done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for showing today.
What's that?
That's it. Thank you for showing today.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. So we just move on to item number 3. Do we have any special verbiage we got to do to close that out? All right, item number 3 is 18-30 East O'Reilly Street and 396 Broadway. Lot line revision of the lands of Kingston Hospital. Section block and lot is 56.26 -6, -48.100, and 56.26-6-32.110. Seeker determination, transect zone is T5F and SD1, I'm sorry. Ward 9, City of Kingston is the applicant, Kingston Hospital Association and Kingston Hospital, the owner. Anybody besides the owner or applicant wishing to speak on item number 3? Okay, are we going to be handling the business for this? Or?
No, Justin, is here for this one.
Okay, go on up, please. How are you?
Good.
And state your name for the record, please.
Justin Gates.
Okay.
She
All right.
has it up behind you on
Yeah,
the
we
screen,
have it.
Justin.
All right, so you want to explain what's going on then, what the plan is?
Sure, this is a draft, where the consultant has put the city of Kingston in. It's intended that Kingston will buy this lot. We would like to revise the lot line. Currently, the lot line is this dashed line, that comes in here.
Okay,
So we're gonna revise the lot line and then buy this piece here. So where it says City of Kingston, it's not yet the City of Kingston. The consultant made a preliminary draft, and they owe us the final. So it's all parking lot. It's through a parking lot. Building here, substation is here. Hasbrook, East O'Reilly, Jansen. You know, I guess you'd be free to ask questions if you had more questions.
The one-story brick building's not included, correct?
This one is,
Not included.
this is yeah, that's correct. That's, the property line will remain the same, which is here.
Okay.
Yeah, through
That's
the
Central
row
Hudson.
building. That's
I
right.
saw the centrals on the red, I just wasn't sure the
Right.
one-story.
Yeah,
It does include the other part building now, the one with the garage doors.
Yeah,
yeah, this is included.
okay.
This is the property line will remain the same right here in the row building. So the only place that we change it is from the corner of the building up over, from where it is here, it comes across the building right now.
This is very similar to one that was approved before by this board. However, the hospital never carried forward and filed the actual subdivision. This, however, just extends it a little bit further to the full Hasbrook in the back on the side.
I have a note here that cross easement's going to need to be identified. Okay.
Right, because the city will be taking the parcel from Jansen Avenue all the way to Hasbrook, that the parking lot, one of the access points for the parking lot that will stay under the ownership of the hospital, and also to the parking, as you see along the backside of the building. That parking will be for the fire department, and so they will need some cross easements there for access to those parking spaces and into, there's a door, a couple doors into the building as well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Those are not intended to be delineated at this time. Those will be a blanket easements for access through Hasbrook or through East O'Reilly.
Is the building intended to be used or torn down?
No,
Used.
the use of the building, yeah, it'll be reused,
Repurposed.
and
Yep.
added onto for the fire department purposes. It's going to house, basically a new main central station. They'll retain the use of the one across the
They're gonna
street.
renovate it, they're not gonna tear it down and start new.
No, I believe they're adding a second story.
No, not a second story. They're gonna
Well-
rebuild the bay right here.
Okay.
So they'll partially tear down this section, but the rest will remain and be renovated. So it'll be a change of use. But for right now, we're just trying to do the lot line revision in order to get the sale to buy the lot.
Okay. Any other questions?
So the parking lot's not involved.
That'll remain the hospital, yeah. We're gonna take this much.
So under seeker, this is a type 2 action, so no further review of the board is required.
There
that
is
true?
one issue, there are two zoning transects that this property will encompass. So we need to add the zoning transect line on there to clearly define where that boundary is.
That's it.
There is one other minor issue technically under the code, the 200, the T5F allows maximum lot width of 200. And the lot width is 200.12. So this board has the authority to
Get a
waive
different
that.
ruler? Gonna get a different ruler?
Yeah. I added them up. Yeah, that's the joy of surveys. They're accurate to the 100th. So the board has the authority to waive if the intent of the code is met. And I think in this case, you want to issue that minor waiver.
Vote on that separately?
Huh?
We have to vote on that separately?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion, we waive.
thank you. Is there a second? Second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Carried.
See any issues with the lot line revision and changes that you requested?
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay. You want to do seeker first?
I did,
Oh, you did?
I did.
Okay.
type 2.
Yep, okay. Thank you. Okay, so Robert had made a motion, that would be for approval of the lot line revision with the change, in the name of the city of Kingston to the hospital properties, providing cross easements to Corporation Council for final review and approval. We will need written descriptions, with the appropriate number of paper copies and Mylars with all signatures, and the zoning transect will be defined.
Sage, you second that? then?
I second.
Okay, Sage seconded that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, item number 4 is 9-23 and 23 Rondout Street. Lot line revision of the lands of Frederick P. Cadden, Samuel Tigas. I think I pronounced that correctly. Section block lot is 48.83-6-22.110, transect zones T3N and T3L, Ward 7. John Heidecker is the applicant, Frederick P. Cadden and Samuel Tigas are the owners. Anybody besides the applicant or owner wishing to speak on item number 4? All right, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. State your name for the record, please.
John Heidecker?
We're going to have something up on the screen here for you shortly. Thank you. Okay,
Is there a way we could move it? Oh, yeah, there we go. So basically, we did a lot line change here back in 2015. And essentially what we're trying to do is put it back the way it was. Essentially what we'd like to do is take this area right here, which includes these 2 sheds, and include it in this tax parcel here. Basically, you know, putting this lot and I guess more in compliance with the zoning code and taking away from this vacant piece of property here. The only thing on the property at the moment are the 2 sheds.
Is the intent to sell one or?
Correct.
or
They
the-
want to sell, Mr. Cadden wants to sell this piece right here
With
to
the
Mr.
house?
Teague.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, and retain the vacant parcel.
correct.
Okay. Any plan to develop that? You don't know.
Not that I know
Okay.
Pretty straightforward. Any questions from the board? All right, under seeker, it's also a type 2 action, so no further review of the board is required at this time. So I'll make a motion that we approve item number 4. There's not too many conditions there.
Just, again, on this one, the house is going to, they need to put the zoning transect. The house right now is in the T3N, and the rear of that parcel will be T3L. So that transect line will have to be put on the final map,
of. Okay.
okay?
Just property descriptions as well?
Yes, resultant parcels, yep.
What else? Board policy 6, the 5 paper copies, 1 Mylar. What was this one here?
Resultant parcel descriptions.
All right. So that is a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Sage Newkirk. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Good seeing you.
Nice to see you.
Okay, item number 5. Is 132 and 136 Newkirk Avenue, lot line deletion of the lands of Silver Lane Homes LLC, which is formerly 132 Newkirk LLC. Section block and lot is 56.35-6-27 and 28. Secret determination, zone T4 and Ward 7. Brian Silver, Silver Lane Homes LLC is the applicant owner. Is there anybody besides the applicant owner wishing to speak on item number 5? Okay. Welcome, and state your name for the record, please.
Brian Silver.
Okay. So fire away.
Wonderful. Okay, so right here we have 132 Newkirk, and right here is 136 Newkirk, and I would just like to do a lot line deletion to combine them into one larger parcel.
And just past the top of that page is where Delaware Avenue comes down, right? That's the, sorry, Charlie.
Correct. Yep, this is Sorry Charlie right here, and this is Delaware. Exactly.
With this, there will be the need to confirm with the zoning enforcement officer compliance to determine whether the curb cuts remain as pre-existing or if they need to be changed. Technically, under the zoning code, the new zoning code, every property is allowed 1 curb cut. So right now you have separate parcels, so you have 2 curb cuts, you're okay. But by combining that, you create a non-conforming situation. So you just need to confirm with that, with our city CEO, who's our kitchen in the building safety division, that that is okay to continue, or you may have to remove one of those curb cuts.
Okay.
Create a single access.
Great, thank you. I did
Okay.
speak with Eric about that because with the new zoning, it only allows for side or rear parking. And our intention is to put an ADU on this parcel over here. Well, I guess, it would be 1, but with the current lot lines and the side setbacks, it doesn't really allow for a suitable size. So he said we would be able to keep the parking as it was if we did not decide to move the lot lines. He seemed to say that that would have been a larger issue because our intention was originally to keep them separate, but maybe move this one, but then one would then have 2 in the other
Right.
unit. So I'll confirm that with him.
Okay.
That was the only issue.
Mhm.
Okay, any questions from the board? Okay, under seeker, it's also type 2 action, so no further review of this board is required. This time I'll make a motion that we approve item number 5 with board policy 6.
Parcels description.
And the confirmation from the zoning enforcement officer about the 2 driveways. Okay. That is a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Vince Archer. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Great. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you very
All
much.
right, take care. Item number 6 is 36 McEntee Street, special permit to establish and operate as, I'm sorry?
38.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at 38 McEntee. Sorry, thank you. Special permit to establish and operate a salon, sector block, and lot is 56.35-1-3. Seeker determination, zone T4N, Ward 8. Simone Cansor is the applicant, Simone Cansor and Veronica Hobson are the owners. Anybody besides the applicant owner wishing to speak on item number 6? Okay, all right, hi, come on up.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Can you state your name for the record? Have a seat. Have a seat.
Okay, it's my first planning board meeting.
Okay, well, state your name for the record.
I'm Simone Consort.
Right. And we have a picture behind you here. So tell us what your plans are.
So I would like to open up a small hair studio, by appointment only,
Okay,
and that's about it. Possibly sell some hair product down the line, but nothing right away. It's kind of small.
okay. And is there something currently there now or was?
It was a cafe,
Okay.
the vegan
Is
cafe.
it vegan cafe?
Yeah, okay.
Are you going to reside on the premises?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Right now, it's just me. Maybe one day I might have a friend from the city who's thinking of moving out full time.
Okay, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Would be nice, yeah. We'll start small though, but I work in Rhinebeck right now. So
Okay.
it would be nice to be, I've been commuting to work from Kerhonkson for the past 4.5 years, so it'd be really nice not to have to do that commute.
I see you have quite a bit of experience. I see 14 years, right?
Yes,
Good. And anything different with signage? You're gonna change the sign at all, or?
well, I kind of like the idea of a tavern sign, but we talked, Kyle and I talked about maybe it was too low. So if it doesn't work, like for the height, I'm hoping it will maybe, I don't know, I don't want it to look awkward, but I'll try to see where 8 feet.
Is there a sign there now?
It was on the top where it says, vegan cafe, but I took it down.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a wall sign.
It was like an awning sign.
okay. So if you do get this, it's gonna be over the city's right of way too, so we're gonna have to show insurance on that for, as naming the city additionally insured.
We'll work with her on
Yeah.
a sign application as long as
I'm
it's
open to changing
compliant,
it.
you know, with the code, then
Yeah.
it's a simple application.
Okay. I'm not really married to the tavern one if it doesn't work, if something's easier.
No, I don't think it's fine. It's just that if you're gonna put it over the city's right of way, there's just some things you need to do just to name the city additionally insured in case the thing falls on someone.
Okay,
Yeah,
maybe we'll get a difference.
yeah. You have any questions? Any questions from the board?
One thing you do need to do is that she did request several of the required submissions be waived. So in the staff notes, we had provided you earlier with a link. I don't know if you've looked at that. And it is an existing conditions, so I would recommend that they be agreed to. Which you need to,
That's a separate vote too?
yes. You're waiving the required submissions
Okay.
as requested.
All right, I'll make a motion that we waive the required submissions form as requested. Second on that, second by Charles Palaco. All in favor? Aye, opposed? Carried?
I assume since it's at a cafe that it has it, but I assume backflow preventers and anything for the sewer, like ties and hairs and stuff.
The building department, she does have a licensed plumber that she's engaged, so she's working with the building department on the interior for that and electric changes that have to be made.
Yeah, not a lot has to be changed with nothing with the pipes have to be changed. There also is an existing, grease trap, it's almost like a septic tank that I had the old owner's service, and I'm keeping that. And then all the sinks come with, backflow like kits. They're like additional kits that you can add on to them.
Just check with the water department, that's sufficient, that they don't want one in the actual commercial building, because I know they've been changing one of the commercial buildings to those.
Yeah, I-
Probably already has one because it's commercial, but I would double check with them.
okay. Yeah. I also use
They're a bit
eco
particular.
heads for like saving water.
So the design of the sign, we can leave that at staff level? Okay, everybody's comfortable with that? Okay.
Any lighting?
Like outside? I don't, just whatever's there. Like there's an outside porch light.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna like add something that's like some neon signs.
No sign lightage or anything like that?
Oh, I did propose possibly like a little overhang light. Again, I'm very open to like whatever you guys think would be best.
That's fine, I
Yeah.
can leave that as staff with the sign.
Yeah, we can discuss that. You won't have to come back for another meeting. This is something
Okay.
that we can, that you can take care of with the
Okay.
staff.
We're just trying to put it on your approval, so you don't have to come back.
Okay, yeah, open to change, open to change.
So a term of the special permit will need to be established. Staff is suggesting a term of 2 years to start and then with renewals. And that would carry on to the administrative end of it where they would no longer have to come here, correct?
Mhm.
Everybody's good with the 2-year?
The only thing we would ask is that it go to an August date, because that is what our month is going to be for special permits that come due.
Do you have that date calculated?
So it would be August, if you could do a year and a half,
26?
or you could do, yes,
So we just,
August 25 or 26.
we'll make it come due August of 26, 2026. Is that good
Yeah.
with everybody?
That's fine.
Okay. All right, under seeker, it's a type 2 action, so no further review. This board is required. Any other issues, sir?
No. She's gonna be a resident there, so.
Yeah, if after hours, she'll be there to open up for us, or yell at people when they break it down, so. Right?
What is this for?
No, we're talking about whether you need a Knox box for after hours access by the fire department, but you're gonna be living there, right?
Yeah, my mom and I will be there,
Okay.
yeah.
We might want to do one, because there are curling irons, hair dryers. electrical appliances.
Does the board,
It's a minor thing.
Chuck used a Knox box, so nobody's.
That's been our precedent. for
Okay.
commercial buildings.
Okay, so we're gonna request a Knox box be installed. The fire department only has a key for that. You meet with them and,
Small little box that you buy.
That's
It has
great.
the key in it.
Okay,
So then
I
after
like
hours,
that.
they don't flush your door down.
I have OCD about fire, so please, anything to keep the place from
Okay.
building down its old.
all right. Any other questions? All right, so at this time, we'll make a motion that we approve item number 6, and Sue has the list of items.
Board policy 6 and the Knox box. Signage will come back to planning staff for final review and approval. If insurance is needed over the right of way, it will be provided. And that we will double check with the building department and Kingston Water Department on the water connections to make sure that they're appropriate for the hair salon.
All right. That is a motion. Do I have a second on that? You, second by Charles Palaco. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What kind of changes do I need to, like, if I were to bring, my friend wants to work with me, is that something I need to come back? Okay, I just
No,
don't,
just adding another, you're the same space, you're just,
Yeah.
you're fine.
okay,
All right.
cool.
Good luck. Nice meeting you. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 7, we're into major waiver request. 7-13 Gerald Street is a major waiver from the required first floor height of 12 feet to 10 feet. Section block and lot is 56.35-7-14.210. Zone T4N, Ward 7, Travis Myers is the applicant owner. Hi there.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, very good.
This might be the last meeting we'll have you here for, right?
I hope so.
Um,
I don't, if everybody has the letter I wrote, I don't know if I need to explain anything, but, it's very simple. My request, I think. But of course, we'll do whatever you tell us to do.
So just give us an overview of what, you know.
Well, the way it's written now in the new code, you have a 12-foot floor-to-floor height, which would give the first, this is a residential property, would give the first floors 11-foot ceilings. All right, which I'm sure probably most of us in this room have 8-foot ceilings, because that's usually the norm. 7 is usually the minimum, and 9 is kind of like a luxury item. So really, it's quite a bit of extra space, not so much even for building, but it is for heating. So, you know, tenants would have to pay for that extra 4 to 5 feet, depending on how tall you are, of heat that, you know, simply isn't used.
Yeah. And if we did go with that 12-foot, it would, the building would be higher than too, right?
Absolutely, on the outside, yes. I think personally, I think it's just something that was overlooked in the writing of the,
No, I think a little bit of background, when the form-based code was presented, it's presented to create more walkable neighborhoods. And so in the T4N neighborhoods and T5 neighborhoods, the first floor heights were specified to be a little higher to allow for potentially some commercial or business type use on that first floor. It is an item that is being looked at right now and being discussed because it's coming up in multiple project applications, whether, you know, it might be purely residential or even in commercial areas where, you know, we're looking more at it contextually based versus just one height across the board, because different locations have different, you know.
oh, I totally understand that, I get the aesthetics of it,
Forms.
especially if there were to be in commercial, a delicatessen, a bar, anything within there, you want the higher things. But these are obviously strictly residential units that we're building, and I would just assume, you know, that you wanted to match the rest of the block, and of course, not waste so much energy. In the
Right,
long run.
so, I mean, we're looking, like I said, we're looking at this across the board because it affects, you know, all different neighborhoods, it affects historic districts. So that may be a change that's going to be coming out of the zoning task force that's reviewing multiple issues with the new form-based code. As it gets implemented, it's a new code. You know, so as things are implemented, we're seeing where there may need to be adjustments or modifications.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is one of the issues that's come up.
I, for one, am in favor of this waiver
I'm
request.
fine with it. I'm just looking at the street itself, all the homes to the right of the street are all single family, 2-story. I don't even know, based on the house designs, if they're even 8-foot, they're probably the old 7.5 foot. And then to the left of the building is a brick 3-story, and again, all 8-foot ceilings. So I think to put something larger will actually look out of character and out of context for the neighborhood and not in the
So
spirit.
it'll continue with the balance of the neighborhood.
Correct.
Yeah, so
That would be my reasoning in approving the major waiver.
how's the rest of the board feel with that?
I concur.
Okay.
So do you have any idea how close the zoning task force is to determining?
I believe in a month or two.
All right, so it looks like everybody's in consensus that the waiver be granted. We'll have to have a vote on that. So I'll make a motion that we grant the waiver request for item number 7.
I just state the finding that it would be consistent contextually with the neighborhood.
Well, we just had a little discussion on it.
I know.
It'll keep in the balance of the current neighborhood.
And then all the buildings will be in the same proportion with each other.
Mhm.
Do I have a second on that? Second by Charles Palaco. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Right.
Thank you very much.
Good luck,
I
sir.
appreciate it. Thank you so much. And happy holidays, everybody.
You too. You too. All right. New business. Item number 8 is 206 and 208 Flatbush Avenue. Site plan / subdivision for multifamily housing with major and minor waiver requests. Section block of lot is 48.74-3-24 and 48.74-3-19. Seeker determination, transect zone SD-MF, Ward 6, Kingston Housing Authority is the owner. Hi there.
Hi, I'm Jeff Scully from Container Man and Ryder.
Okay.
I represent Kingston Housing Authority and the developer Montclair.
Okay.
Would you like me to sit down?
Yeah, have a seat. Then we're gonna just have you do that.
Okay, thank you. I apologize in advance, I'm covering tonight, I have briefed on the overview, but my main tasks are to find out what you guys need and want in your comments and concerns so I can communicate them back. Our engineer, Mr. Brian Brooker, is en route, and he has a much more comprehensive knowledge of the project. So my apologies in advance if I don't have answers that you're looking for. I'll do my best.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for allowing us to conduct the multiple site visits on the property. I think that was very helpful. So some of the things that I took away from the site visit, I know visuals are a big ticket for, not just for me, members of the board, also neighbors of the area. So I think we should establish where we should get some visuals, vantage points for this project. So we have.
Right, so Wayne, Andrew, Robert, Vince, and Kira and Matt were all able to make one of the site visits. And it was interesting because they were held at different times of the day. There was an early morning one, there was a midday one, and then there was a late afternoon one. So each one kind of showcased some different aspects of what was going on at the site at those different times. Whether it's be the train impact or traffic on the roads or the school buses letting out and the kids actually seeing, the use of the open space on the properties. It was very interesting to see those different dynamics. Delivery trucks, a lot of noontime activity was delivery vehicles coming to the properties. So I thought that was interesting. I did try and kind of put together some bullets from all 3 site visits, but I would like to hear from the board members that were present. We had multiple agencies of the city that came, as well as applicants' representatives there, but we had the water department, building department, fire department, engineering, water department. So we had a good show of those departments because they will all be involved at one point or the other in reviewing the project as well. And so I would like to hear what, everybody's takeaways were.
Well, I mean, one of my concerns is the size of the building in relationship to Flatbush Avenue and some of the neighbors coming down the hill towards Penn Court. It is rather tall. I know that's one of the waiver requests that the applicants are seeking for building height. I don't know if it's possible, but I mean, yeah, we're gonna get some visuals on this, but I wonder if there's could be a plan B, could we possibly move, like swap where the building is, where the parking lot is? I don't even know if that's possible, but I would like to, that would help, I think, with reducing the size of the building, how it appears coming down Flatbush myself. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels about the building height.
I'll chime in. It's a big building, it's a lot in a small footprint. Ultimately, when we look at the brand new code that just came out that went through public hearings and through common council, I'm in favor of the project in the sense that we need the housing and that this is a good and a very nice building for housing, but I'm having I've been struggling with the amount of the waivers that are required, because basically it's a building that's not meant for the zone that it's in. We got too big a building, too long a building, too high a building. It doesn't meet any part of the zoning code that it's in. And if we grant these major waivers, then how does that affect other projects that come before us? Because we're basically ignoring what the code is. It's putting forth in front of us. Am I in favor of the housing? Yes. Am I in favor of the building? I think it's a great building, but it's a building that's really meant for our Midtown district that has an overlay district that has height requirements that allow for that type of a height or even higher of a building. It just doesn't feel like it's the right place. It's a very densely populated residential two-story complex through all of Colonial Gardens, Stuyvesant Charter Apartments, and the whole code that was formulated around the existing structures wants to keep it that way. And yet this building is just, you're just packing so much in, and that's what I'm struggling with. Also, traffic is a concern, whether it be an in or an exit or whatever we're going to do with Flatbush Avenue, it's a very tight turn, it's a very narrow entrance, and a building of this size is going to have, as Sue said, a lot of delivery trucks, emergency personnel, a lot of people in and out, a lot of kids in and out, and there's not a lot of space. And also the building lacks open space. The space in the back of the building that we saw is just not sufficient for the size of, or the number of residents, and the space in the front is not a place for kids to play or hang. There's no space in this building outside. So those are my concerns. I mean, the building itself, it's a nice building, and I understand housing, the number of units, that all makes sense. It just doesn't feel like it's in a great spot.
I do share
your
your thoughts and concerns as well. The way the courtyard is right now, I think it lends itself to more of a community environment and I mean, I've been to, in my previous life, I've been to calls there where, everybody seems to come out and want to, there's kids playing, there's people congregating and having they're enjoying their home, and outside. So I do also have concerns about how this project folks will lose that amenity, how it currently exists right now. I do agree that there needs to be some more open space for people to enjoy. I know it's not going to be the same as it is right now, but I do also, like I said, I share your concerns that will be lost somehow. As far as the height of the building, that's obviously a concern of mine as well. And like I said, if we could switch parking lot building where it is right now to see how that looks with visuals, getting it further away off of Route 32, off of Flatbush Avenue.
That only pushes it though closer to the existing structure.
I know
there.
So I don't know how the rest of the board feels about the height. It is a concern of mine. I am in favor of housing, this project.
So one thing I noticed at the site visit was how much use that the area that the new retaining wall that they're proposing is kind of cutting into, how much use that got. That was full of kids. I was there, I think 3:30 or after school. There were half a dozen kids out there playing, and we're proposing, I'm not sure how high that retaining wall is going to be right there, but
12 to 14.
Yeah, just putting a giant wall, cutting out probably half of that, taking down a number of old trees that really lend to the kind of beauty of that space. I don't know.
The point that you brought up about access, the intention of this particular portion of the housing is for elderly seniors. And so adding that many more seniors is gonna probably increase potential medical attention. So the access to attend to that may be something to consider too.
Couple things that were mentioned at the site visit are that the applicants have engaged a traffic engineer. So we have not seen the final work, but with the fire department there and with the engineering department, they spoke about possibly closing off the Flatbush access as it is and making it emergency entry only to alleviate the concerns with just regular traffic in and out, but it would still then provide, an access means. That could be done in a couple different ways. There are, as we've seen used up on Bluestone, they put a hard surface underneath, and then you have what looks like a regular black grass lawn area. So it would be, able to absorb some stormwater runoff, but it would support emergency vehicles ingress and egress. That was one thing. They've also engaged a landscape architect, which is Weston and Sampson. And they were on the site visits too, looking around and listening to the people. Again, our urban forester was there and did obviously look at the trees, the mature trees. They will be losing a substantial number of very old mature trees, which, would be a big change for that small area. So they were going to work with our urban forester to see how they might be able to maybe work around some of those. I don't know if it'll be possible or, what type of plantings will have to be, reinstalled to make up for those differences. A couple other things that were mentioned, you talked about the building height. The representatives from Melco, which is the construction company, and the Kingston Housing Authority executive director were there. And they discussed the potential for that building end, which is closest to Flatbush and closest to those other single-family homes that are there, possibly reducing the height of that section of the building and making that more in line with what the code allows, to keep it to a lower height at that end, and then the height, having the higher end stay as the same.
Where would that height difference begin?
We didn't really, it was just an idea that was talked about. They were open to looking at it. So I have not seen, obviously, any revised plans of that nature yet. But that was something that was discussed.
When you have a tall building like that, I mean, granted, there's all different types of housing, but like, we talk about the different added features of like, like safety for people that are, seniors and like, is that all like considered in the project too? Like the additional, like just,
In our initial visit, the first one, the engineers were there, and the building contains elevators, obviously your normal egress for stairs, but it also has backup generators that run all the emergency lighting and all the elevators and other things that they in the building. And that generator is going to sit furthest away from Flatbush, up against the hill on the hill going up the S turn. That was a concern of a few of the planning board members, because again, they weren't getting into the old growth trees, but you have residences right on top of the hill, and it was going to be supposedly a giant, I think diesel generator, if I recall correctly, because of the size of the building requires that. And the waste factor, because again, you have your single family houses up above, you have a hill, and you have a large 4-story building, so you're going to basically be in an echo area. They are self-enclosed with cabinets, they do have soundproofing, but again, we were asking about what is the noise, fumes, things like that, how does it vent air? Because it's in a hole.
Yeah.
Right, Sue, that was just basic, just of that conversation.
So they were going to look at that we also talked, they are flat roofs, so we spoke about, potentially using the rooftops for some of the mechanicals versus ground mounted. And we talked about the backside of the building against the hill. That's where they were looking to have their refuse storage area within the building. That's where the bike room might be. So
We
we
did
talked
talk about fire with the fire department,
Right,
bike rooms,
fire
e-bikes and all of
Yep.
that. So that's what's discussed with the engineers as well.
I'm not sure how realistic it is or if it's been considered, but have they looked at elsewhere on the property putting this? I mean, we're already talking about tearing down buildings.
Yeah.
Well, the two buildings are being torn down because there were studios and they kind of have their useful life, so
Yeah.
those are the two that are targeted. But there was discussions amongst members and people looking around that there are other areas that are low lying, but at the end of the day, the whole neighborhood is still, no matter where you put it in that big complex, you have basically 2.5-story building, and you build a 4-story.
I mean,
Yes,
but
there
it's
are
a
other,
there are much away from the single family homes. aren't there?
you have to take some of the existing housing that doesn't need to be renovated. And it's-
Right,
that's
you
another-
would actually ask that question, and John Medeo from Mount Co. Has done some research, and he will be able to respond to that. The buildings that are coming down are efficiency units. There's 32 efficiency units in them presently. They want to make them, and they're outdated, so they want to make them into one-bedrooms, and then they'll be adding the 50 extras. They talked about the other property, Colonial Gardens, that is getting a bunch of renovations. And so that those are underway, those renovations are underway. And that since the money is already allocated and being put into that they weren't so sure that they would be able to change money. And how the awards were made to put the renovations into these structures versus changing to the new construction down below.
State's not gonna renovate the building and tear it down.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess the real issue before the board is, yes, we need visuals, yes, we need answers to all these, but we also have to balance it with the applicant as to they're spending money. So at the end of the day, we're back to these waivers. So either the applicant makes the decision that they want us to decide on the waiver before they expend this money, or do they want to provide us with some of the visuals and a little bit more detail, so that when we do make a decision on the waiver, we've got more information in front of them, and that's kind of something that I think's got to go back to the applicant to decide.
John
Necessarily what
walked
they
in
want to
and
do.
Geralda are here now, so.
But the board has been expressing its concerns in areas of where they need more information. And I've been taking as copious notes as I possibly can to try to be comprehensive. So that's where we are in the process.
John, I know that you spoke at the, I think it was the noon meeting, when the afternoon meeting, when the question was raised earlier in the morning, why the new construction isn't being done further away from Flatbush. Maybe you could just reiterate the reasoning for that, for the board?
Sure, so we've got Colonial Gardens, which is a larger development, 98 units of family development. And then we've got Penn Court, which is 32 units, seniors. And the complexes were built about the same time, in 1966, 1969, in that period. But since then, there has been work done. The state funded several years ago, several $1 million worth of rehab work at Colonial Gardens. So Colonial Gardens is in better physical condition than Penn Court. So that's one reason why we would do Penn Court. A second reason is that the units at Penn Court are mostly efficiency units, which are really not the best units to have. So we felt that we have a chance to improve the conditions for the people who are going to live there. And the third part related, it's sort of a related answer, is that the units at at Penn Court, which is supposed to serve the elderly, are not ADA compliant. Okay, when they were built, they were 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, I guess, but they're not now. So we have people living in units that are not ADA compliant. So for those three reasons combined, we felt that it would be good to go there. We also had representatives from the state funding agency come out and visit the site. So they looked at Colonial Gardens, they looked at Penn Court, and they can't tell us what to apply for, but it was very clear that they felt that that was the right decision as well. So there's a whole series of reasons.
Thank you.
If I may add,
These units are more.
We know you, we just want to introduce yourself for the record. please.
Geraldo Wilcox, I'm the Executive Director of Kingston Housing Authority. Thank you. And just to clarify, we looked at the whole aspect of it, and the one bedrooms would be not only better for our seniors, but mentally also. You know, studios, you don't have a lot of space, it gets cramped. We want to make sure that what we put out there is better for the community.
So while we're on the subject of waivers, there are a couple things that we just wanted to make sure get clarified. The waivers have to be written and requested based on just the parcel where the new development is going to be taking place. So they're gonna have to be modified, so as an example, the parking waiver, when that was written, it was written with, I believe, all of the project site taken into consideration, not only Penn Court, but also Colonial Gardens. So with 82 units, you're only going to require 82 parking spaces technically under the code for the special district multifamily. And there's 77 on the site. So your waiver is for the number between 77 and 82, not the way it's written for the whole site, okay? That's one example. I think also there was a question with regards to the lot coverage. And I tried to look at it. I think it was written based on the entire Colonial Gardens and Penn Court lot coverage versus just this lot. Okay, so that one's gonna have to be revised too, just to reflect this property. All right, so that the waivers are only dealing with the Penn Court properties and not the Colonial situation, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Before you got here, Geraldo and John too, we talked about the building height. And I know that when we were on our site visits, several board members that had been present, and even some of the agency reps that came along, were concerned about the height of the building, especially where it comes near that, the Run family residence. I know we had talked about some options. Wayne also had mentioned a potential option. We don't know if it's feasible. I don't know if you want to talk about that now that they're here.
Well, my concern of the building height is coming down Flatbush Avenue, you know, that's, and then the houses that are immediately down below that where this building is right slated to be. So, I was, you know, I didn't know if it's possible to swap where the, you know, the building and the parking lot is. Is that, I don't know if that's a possibility, just to, I mean, if we do grant the waiver for building height, that would make it an easy, you know, a lot easier for me to make a decision that way if we could swap it so it's away from the Flatbush Avenue coming down. I know Sue had also mentioned that part of the building could be lowered, if that was a possibility. The ones it's at the south, right? South. The south end of the building where it butts up against the the houses there, the residential. Yeah, I don't know if that's just one of my, couple of my thoughts there.
Sure.
We'll speak to that.
You know, we're working constantly with our partner, the Housing Authority. So we're looking at two things. One you mentioned tonight, which we hadn't thought of. We'll take a look at it about flipping the building. Everything has cost implications and time implications, but we'll look at it. The two things that are very much on the table that I think are doable, we don't have a final answer yet, but we should by December, is to drop the whole building right now. We think we can drop it between 3 and 4 feet, okay? And we're working on the engineering on that. It gets into cut and fills and what we have to do, but we think it's doable. The second thing, which you also mentioned, is the possibility at the south end of the building is actually stepping back the 4th floor and losing a couple of units off the 4th floor, which would create a little better visual and a little lessen the impact a little bit on the building. We're looking at that again. You lose units, it affects the economics of the project, but it also the flip side is we'd like to get as many affordable units as we can on the site. So, but yes, when you come back, we'll be able to discuss both of those and we'll give you a visual to show you what that looks like. And we'll take a look at at what happens if you flip.
And it might be even, if you flip it, you would have to maybe angle the building the other way,
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about that building on the retaining wall side as opposed to a parking lot, but yes, we'll take a look.
You want to reiterate what you mentioned earlier before the other two folks came about the lead height and how future applicants, to be one of
That's,
he's got notes on that, so.
yeah, I mean, he's,
All right.
your council, correct?
Yes.
So that's a good conversation, really bring that all the
Okay.
time. I mean, that's ultimately,
Yeah.
code specific.
Vince, do you want to add anything? You were also on the site. Was there anything that you wanted to add? Any thoughts? Yeah, you.
I think it was covered, but I think it was mentioned when we were there. That's really the same discussion,
Okay.
about flipping the site to the parking lot. How does that?
If you flip it though, you're only closer to the existing residential.
I know, I know, I mean, but
That's
just,
not even taller.
I get
An
that.
option. I mean,
I'm just,
No, I'm just talking it out. I mean,
no, and it's, I agree.
I mean, I don't know, ultimately, I'm just having trouble with the code. We just have a brand new code that we vetted through common council, through the public, and this entire area is meant for one size, and we're building something completely different. And if we do that in this district, then what do we do through the whole city? I mean, the code is meant to have some type of conformity in an area, and this is not meeting it. And with a brand new code, yes, the common council is discussing modifications and changing, but I don't know that they're proposing this radical of a change in this zone.
no, these are not issues for that.
I mean, we looked at the Broadway corridor, we looked at the, what is it, across from,
On the boulevard.
O'Neill, what was it, O'Neill, by like, places that there's a whole zone that's meant for affordable housing, certain sizes. If it's affordable, you get extra stories. That's where the city has decided that we're putting these side buildings, and it was not in this area that's around residential homes that were all 2.5 stories. So that's what I'm struggling with.
No, and I was just offering you an option, on,
No, I understand, but I'm in favor of the project, and I'm in favor of the housing that's needed. I want that clear on the record. My issue is with this board and how we give these types of waivers, and then when we have other applicants, we gave it to them, why now are you giving it to them? Like, this is a brand new code, and how do we distinguish this? Because if we're making these types of major waivers, then we're opening the door to waivers all around the city, and then you're basically ignoring what the code says. Well, if the code says you can't do something, well, we'll just give you a waiver. And As a board member, I'm
Waivers
struggling.
are not designed to be precedent-setting initiatives, just, okay. They are special exceptions, based on unique circumstances of a particular site, location, whatever the issue might be. So just want to keep that in
No, I
mind
understand, but
too.
that's
I-
what I'm
I know-
struggling
I
with, what
understand
those
what you're- I
definitions
understand
are,
exactly what you're
and,
saying.
and they're not present setting, but ultimately, we have to treat the city across the board equally, all the residents
Mhm.
across the board equally. And people are going to start to look at these projects and look at these waivers and say, we gave them a waiver, why are you giving them a waiver, you're not giving me a waiver?
Well, I want to refer to a waiver we granted for the project on the boulevard, like Pettit Avenue Extension. It was on a building height there too. And we granted the waiver on that. And we were comfortable with it because it was far enough down, off the road, down the hill, where it really wasn't.
And we just did it as the applicant before this applicant.
No, I know.
Based on neighborhood, contextual design, it fit.
So,
This is
and,
not,
and that's why,
fitting to me.
you know, I'm not saying I'm in favor of building height, but this, we're offering an option to get it off of Flatbush Avenue further down into the, off the
I
hill.
understand.
And that's where my logic was. I was, you know, kind of thinking back to the boulevard waiver that we granted. How it looks visually, I don't know. We'll have to think, you know, we'll have to get some simulations with that. I, you know, just, you know, spitballing right now. I was just asking if that could be moved off of Route 32 Flatbush Avenue a little more. I get your concern. I get, you know, and I understand what Sue's saying. It's not meant to be a precedent setting type of thing that this board is, you know, with granting waivers. But I get what you're saying too on that.
There has to be some type of rational
Yeah.
analysis for it, because it's gonna be scrutinized.
So, I mean, we're gonna get into the visuals here, right? We're already starting that conversation. I think we need to establish where we want to get these, you know, where these vantage points are gonna be located, so that it'll give me a better idea of how the scope of it, how it looks from different
And again,
places.
with council, we had a discussion that we're asking for these things. They're
Yeah.
gonna eventually have to make the decision what they're willing to spend money on or when they want a
Well,
decision.
I mean, the visuals are meant to also assist you in making those very decisions.
I understand that, I'm
You
just,
know, understanding fully what the impact is going to be is, you know, a visual is gonna help you understand that
and
more.
that's why we're requesting it, but again, we've had projects in the past, we've gone down this road, and we've gone down, spent money. Ultimately, this board, all the members, try and make everyone aware that this is a conversation that has to be had and a decision that has to be made.
Mhm. Granted, yeah.
Well, you want to start, I know we had, put out, a couple potential locations, at last month's meeting, but now we had the advantage of actually going to the site, and seeing, you know, for yourselves where you might want these visual assessments and analysis done from. I would also recommend that you include in your request some nighttime simulations, so that you understand fully what the impact of any exterior lighting, and that may be because the reverse is also true. There's an impact from this site outward.
Is there a way too that you can see like a side by side, like if they do like what it looks like now versus what it'll look like? Like a side by side comparison?
Right, so visual simulations would include the existing natural surroundings, so it wouldn't be the massing simulations that you saw earlier. You know, those don't really portray, they would have to include buildings that are articulated architecturally, the way they intend to, you know, construct them.
So to start it off, I mean, I talked about it at the site visit too. One of the vantage points is coming down from on Flatbush Avenue where it starts to make the turn. Or even at the top of Flatbush, but just somewhere up on Flatbush Avenue as you're driving towards the site.
That location was really identified at the evening hour as well. When we did the late afternoon one, that was when vehicles had headlights on because it was, darkness was setting in earlier. And even standing on the site, you could see, you know, the impact, potential impact of the headlights of vehicles coming down the road and actually affecting the residents in the building itself. So that was a location we wanted to see.
I think it would be important to see the view from where the courtyard is there, the area that the children like to play. And to see exactly how the retaining wall is gonna.
The courtyard by where the proposed retaining wall is, right?
Yeah.
There.
In Colonial Gardens.
So,
Well, the building, so when we looked at the lines that were gonna come farther down than what they are now, it would essentially go into that area where it starts to dip down, right? So that's where the retaining wall that would be, right?
okay, so let's make some locations using the map. So this is that green space, that lower green area. So are you saying from a point within this green space looking up? Is that what you're?
No, I'm thinking more along the lines of like, how is that wall, retaining wall, because it was brought up at some point when we were talking, how is that going to potentially like affect the community aspect of that play area for the children by having not only that tall building, but having the retaining wall there? Is it gonna create separation of the communities? Or, because we talked about a lot of the additions to the building that is being proposed with like community space and different types of things with landscaping, but is it gonna separate?
Okay,
one
so
community from the
I
other?
hear what you're saying. So
Okay.
one thing I want to just point out, and I don't know if anybody identified it, but there is a staircase kind of proposed over in this corner here so that there will be pedestrian connectivity up and down at that point. I don't know if you picked up on that.
I didn't, no.
Okay,
But when you and I were standing down and like looking at it from that side, seeing how far down that was gonna be.
okay. Okay, so I think maybe then one of the visuals should be from maybe the center of this lower green courtyard that exists, looking up to
Yeah.
give you a sense of what that is going to be. Just so everybody knows, the first one we picked was kind of, I'm sorry, my back is to you, was coming down right at this kind of curve up here. I think there was when we were there was like a blinking kind of a light on Flatbush, and we kind of thought that might be a good spot for that one, looking down this way. So that's two.
I know we had also talked in the morning, out on, Flatbush Avenue by the cemetery, a little bit to your left, looking straight in, so you can kind of see the wall,
Okay.
you can see the height of Colonial Gardens, and then you can see the height of the building, like you're kind of like looking up Pembroke. So you can kind of get the massive.
So from,
Yeah.
here's where Farley kind of comes out on this side of,
Yeah, it was a little bit to the left.
so, oh, you want it from over here?
Yeah, kind of at the angle of the road going in,
Okay,
Pembroke, so
To
that
the
you can.
right of the houses.
Just like that, Sue, so you can kind of see the Colonial to the left, and you can see the building to the right, and you can see the walls, and you can kind of, you can see the
okay.
homes that are.
So
in the
maybe
front, you
even a
kinda get
little
like
further
massive-
down.
Yeah,
Here this is a walkway, and this is Colonial Drive, so maybe somewhere shy of this walkway
I think you're gonna have to go a little bit to the right.
over
in there.
this, okay.
Yeah. 'Cause otherwise the building's gonna block your view of Pembroke.
Do you know if this
Basically,
building has a number? That I can,
No,
So, Veronica,
but I could see where you're saying, this is the driveway here.
You're red penning it, right?
yeah,
That's
this is the driveway, this is a easement right now, that's an
Okay.
easement.
Okay.
So
No, I
basically
don't-
taking a picture right up the center of that easement. Looking at
Okay.
Colonial on the left and you're looking at the building on the
Like
right.
this? Okay. What is that building?
Get too far.
This building is this, so we're looking at somewhere kind of, from this point. This is the easement, the existing easement that comes down. This is the existing access driveway. So coming in kind of there.
Is there a way to see this building in relation to those houses on that corner there?
So you're saying that if we take the picture there, it would have Colonial.
It would have like the corner of Colonial, it would have these houses and,
it would
yeah,
have Penport
yeah,
in the ring.
right.
Okay.
What about from something up above?
Andrew had
Well, yeah, I was just thinking maybe further out on the road there, kind of with the houses that are there and then this building behind them.
You're talking about.
Yeah.
So by the curve here, you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
somewhere?
something there, yeah.
Okay,
Might want to go a little bit more around the curve, Sue.
okay,
Right in there,
Yeah.
because you'd see the building and you'd see the houses, because the building should be over the houses. Like you're
Okay.
going up the hill.
To the east of the access driveway going up the curve. This area to the east of the access driveway going.
right here where it comes down and makes the sharp curve kind of right, looking that way.
That would be a kind of across the front yards of the three houses, because the last house is set pretty far back.
Right, this house here is back in this kind of corner here.
I think that would be important for our discussion about cutting a story near those houses.
Any, I think from this point might be good to see.
From the Head Start driveway, kind of? From the Head Start
Yeah.
driveway?
That's what, 4?
That's 5.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You know, I don't know, obviously, we talked about potential, the possibility of flipping the parking and the building. But, you know, I don't know. As part of the traffic, they will be doing site evaluations here, up and down, that'll be part of the traffic. The only other thing I can think of is just kind of looking, you know, through the site. Maybe would be another one.
Through the site from where, may I ask?
You know, someplace like in here through the site. Anybody else?
Will this thing be able to be seen from the Flatbush Avenue Railroad crossing? Is this going to pick up that high?
You might see a little, I don't know how
You
much
got
you'd
lots of
see.
trees and stuff in between. I mean, the only place you go out, you might see it is, you know, in the warehouses and stuff, but that's a railroad, it's not. Backside of Florentine and that, you know, we gotta do.
Yeah.
There's all one line here.
Can we,
This last one. Maybe, or.
yeah.
Are we happy with the amount of visual locales?
That's gonna be revealing
This
enough.
one,
Okay,
this one.
Chuck, you good with that?
Actually,
The amount of
we're
locales for the vantage points to look good for the,
And this.
Yeah, we have,
And then there was-
But are those good, those 5 good spots?
still in the secondary. They're still raised. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. I don't know,
So
it's-
I will want to flag.
There is-
Mr. Chairman, what we can do, I've got 6 locations.
pardon?
I've got 6 locations.
Okay.
Okay, and so what we'll do is we'll mark it. and get it to Sue.
Okay.
Just make sure we're talking, I think we're talking about the same
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
let's just make sure. before
Okay.
we're out.
In some of the access, justify some of the orders too.
Just so that everybody's aware, Brian, is also come, Brian is the engineer. Okay. And I think we got them unless anybody else has any other suggestions.
We did talk about, I think in the morning, meeting about mechanicals. They weren't sure on the heating plants and where condensers are going. Are they going on roofs or not going on roofs?
They're all P-wax, so they're gonna be in the wall underneath the windows.
Kind of like a hotel where you just see a grate.
Yes, very much like a hotel, yeah. There would be maybe a condenser on the roof that services some of the commercial space, commercial community spaces, and spaces that are not rooms that have windows for P-TEC. So that would be the extent of it.
Okay, so one thing we also wanted to ask the board this evening, if you're comfortable, we'd like to initiate the seeker process. This is an unlisted action under seeker. However, because of the scope and the number of agencies that are involved in reviewing the project, the applicants have requested a coordinated review, which would mean that a lead agency needs to be established. So we did prepare a resolution for the board. You received it in your packets to initiate that process. We would circulate it to the list of all involved and interested agencies, which has been compiled by us in cooperation with the applicants. And that would be put out for the 30-day required time period. So that's something I'd like you to consider.
Good with that? Good? Robert? Okay. We can undertake that right now, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, you want me to read it first?
Yeah.
All right, so I have the resolution before me. Resolution of the City of Kingston Planning Board to seek designation of lead agency for number 206 and 208 Flatbush Avenue, section block and lot 48.74-3-24, 48.74-3-19 in the seeker process under 6 NYCRR Part 617. Whereas Kingston Housing Authority, the applicant, has submitted a completed Part 1 of the full environmental assessment form to the City of Kingston Planning Board to demolish 32 existing studio units on the annex site and construction of a new 4-story building with 82 one-bedroom units with associated parking and site improvements under a site plan review, and revise a property line under a subdivision process, which is the action. And whereas the project is located at 206 and 208 Flatbush Avenue, Kingston, New York, section block and lot 48.74-3-24 and 48.74-3-19. And whereas although the application is considered unlisted under 6 NYCRR Part 617, which is the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation seeker, the applicants in the City of Kingston agree that a coordinated review is in the best interest of the comprehensive project due to the number of involved and interested agencies. And whereas the designation of lead agency and a determination of the significance of the action on the environment must be made in order to comply with the New York State Environmental Conservation Law, which is the Seeker Act, and the regulations promulgated thereunder by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. And whereas the City of Kingston Planning Department, in coordination with the applicant, have identified a list of involved and interested agencies based upon the information submitted. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Kingston Planning Board as follows. Section 1, that the action is determined to be an unlisted action, and have opted to initiate a coordinated review under seeker part 617.5. Section 2, that the City of Kingston Planning Board desires to establish itself as lead agency in the environmental review process. And Section 3, that the Planning Department is directed to circulate a request to all involved and interested agencies seeking concurrence with the designation of the Kingston Planning Board as the lead agency for the seeker review of the action. Section 4, that this resolution shall take effect immediately. I will make a motion that we adopt this resolution. Do I have a second? Second by Charles Palaco. All in favor, Wayne Platt is a yes. Charles Palaco,
Yes.
Robert Jacobson,
Yes.
Vince Archer,
Yes.
Sage Newkirk.
Yes.
That is adopted. Anything else for them? Any other questions? Any questions from the applicant at all, or?
No, I think the only thing that we would add is that, for your information, we have the landscape architect, working on the plan. We're hopeful that we'll be able to show you something at the November meeting.
Okay.
And, that we know we owe you a traffic study as well. That's being, and the traffic studies, traffic report, that we're working on. And, I'm not sure we'll have that by December, but that's our goal. And then the only other thing I would say, Harold and I and Brian go to a lot of planning board meetings, and we very seldom see a planning board where they have all their board members and their alternates go out on site visits. I mean, that's really a compliment to the work that you guys do, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your kind words. We appreciate working with you and the applicants too. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so at this time, I'll make a motion that we table item number 8. Do I have a second? Robert Jacobson with a second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you,
Opposed?
guys.
Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Board, for your
Robert.
thoughtful comments, which I will have my admin tomorrow morning decipher. Full appointments that I can share with Housing Authority.
Okay.
You sign that?
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone.
And just so you know, we do post the meetings on the city council website, so you know, to watch. And hopefully it's what it'll probably take you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, I can put
All right,
that.
good night.
Do that.
All right, item number 9, we're under a common council referral. Zoning amendment, recommendation of common council on referral amending section 405.19 affordable housing standard by modifying definitions of both affordable and workforce housing. You guys want to?
Yeah. Be careful with those chairs. Like
Christ.
they're over there for a reason. Yeah.
We served one day.
Good.
Yeah,
Very
they're in the
carefully.
corner for a reason.
You all right with that?
Yeah.
Precarious situations.
We got that.
There's a decision document still.
Oh.
So Kyla just handed you, this just came in very late this afternoon. We apologize, we weren't able to get it around. This is the recommendation the Ulster County Planning Board issued on the request that's being put forward now. So I know Michelle and Mike, you haven't had a chance to see it firsthand either. We were hoping to have it earlier so that we have more time to review it. It gets very detailed. And more so than just a yes or a no, they're offering some specific suggestions and comments. So I don't know, Michelle, do you just want to, I don't know how you guys want to present a little bit about what you're proposing and why, what the background is. That would be helpful.
Okay, I guess I'd start. So, as you know, this is considered the inclusionary zoning in our zoning code. And the intention is to create as much affordable housing as possible. But I just want to bring us back even further. Inclusionary housing policies were first developed to specifically counteract the history of exclusionary zoning policies that reinforce economic and racial segregation. Although not intended to completely right racial injustices embedded in our nation's housing practices, done right, inclusionary housing can meaningfully advance equity. So it just brings us to the fact that our affordable housing and workforce housing way it is set now is above market rate. 60% of the Kingston community is below 80% AMI. The county's AMI numbers are about double what Kingston's local numbers are. So the Kingston AMI, separate from the county AMI, is about $62,000, which puts us literally in the middle of 50 to 60% of the county AMI. So the county has a couple of programs, the ADU +1 program, and the financing for that. They recognize that the 80% AMI for that program is too high, and they're now using 80% AMI or fair market rents, whichever is lower.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think it's worth mentioning that in the time that this code was written to now, Ulster County AMI has increased 40%, which is the highest in New York State and one of the highest in the country. So what worked 4 years ago in terms of affordable has swiftly moved outside the realm of affordable currently. At the current rates of rent that which we would be setting under this affordable, under this current affordable definition, none of the 500 families living in emergency shelters would be able to actually afford any of these rents. You can be making up to, $130,000 and be still considered workforce under this current definition, which is not really who we should be subsidizing housing for in the terms of the triage level of crisis that we're trying to address the severity of the ongoing housing crisis. I would direct you to page 3 of the county planning board's definition, in which we would say that we very starkly would say we would simply state that no amount of rationalization should be applied to labeling units as affordable when they likely are not, which is currently what our definition is. The city's definition, the definition that Alderwoman Hirsch and I have come to based off of a lot of research and discussion, brings it into where actual renters in Ulster County are able to afford.
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused, only because we have a new zoning code that was vetted through common council, a housing director, a mayor, and the residents of the city, which was just recently implemented. Are you saying that that was wrong and therefore it should be lowered? I'm trying to figure out.
And I don't think anybody could have foreseen that we would have the largest change in AMI in the history of the United States in 4 years.
And so if we're saying that's wrong, where does your proposal, let's say you have a proposal here, you have the city's proposal here, what are other communities like in the area? Because there's a housing across really the state that's a problem. So when you look at like from New York City to Albany or Albany to Rochester, what are other cities and municipalities? Where are they at in this matrix?
So Albany, in 2023, about the time we were passing our form-based code, they changed their affordable zoning from 100% AMI to 60% AMI.
So Albany's at 60.
Yes.
And right now the city's at 8, and you guys are proposing
50.
50. Okay, so Albany's in the middle. Do we have any other examples of any other communities?
Well, we have the, recently passed, 421 PPP and PP, which are tax exemptions for some affordable housing that the state put in their budget, and we did pass a couple of those here, and those are at 60.
Those are at 60.
We are also one of the very few cities with an inclusionary zoning code.
And I don't mean to monopolize this conversation, but just my last question, just so I can formulate this in my brain. When you had mentioned a group of individuals that are in like a shelter, a situation where they can't afford to get into an apartment because it's unattainable. But by lowering this, it's mandating that developers create this type of affordable housing. And obviously, as a planning board, when we make a decision, we have to balance this against developers that are creating any type of housing right now. So, and I don't want to lump people in groups, but when you look at a group that's going to be serviced by your proposal versus how many people are out there looking for affordable housing that developers right now are providing. So like, how do you balance that? I mean, are you going to potentially, if developers don't provide this type of development, is there a larger group of or class of people that are not going to end up getting housing because developers are going to say, we're not going to develop in the city because we're trying to provide housing for a group that can't afford to get into housing?
Well, so right now, even at our current definition, it's above fair market rent, so nobody really in there who's being a active, conscious consumer would be willing to move into these properties under current definition, because you could get a cheaper property, a cheaper rental elsewhere in the city. So it's kind of a farce to even be describing the current definition of affordable housing as affordable.
Because I'm seeing a lot of developers coming in, they're building housing, we're having projects after projects. I mean, the code is relatively new, but I mean, I think the planning board members, at least myself, I can see certainly an uptick with development. So I'm just not sure, I mean, I don't feel like enough time has passed to see with all these units that are being produced, are we solving the housing, or are we putting a dent in the housing? Because I'm concerned about interrupting some type of progress by going too low with the proposal that you have. Because if the city's at 80 and you're at 50, but I'm hearing other municipalities are kind of at 60, I don't want to go from one extreme to the other and then prevent any type of development and any type of housing for individuals that need the housing.
So currently, the only supportive housing that I'm aware of on the table is the Quality Inn on 28.
That's not in the city of Kingston.
No, but it's in the census designated tract, 12401 zip code, in which our constituents would foreseeably be interested in renting. That's the only one, you know. Golden Hill is senior and mixed income. Barrel Factory is going to be mixed income. The Baxter is mixed income.
But all those mixed income that come online, is this proposal going to affect developers and say, well, we're not going to do this because if we're mandated to provide affordability at this level, we're just not going to develop, therefore we don't get any of those units. That's where I'm struggling.
Well, I'm concerned that if we are building units that people can't afford the rent, I mean, at 120 AMI, we're talking about a studio apartment for like $2,500. So if they can't rent that apartment out at that rent, I'm concerned that we're gonna have a situation like we have in some places in New York City in the boroughs where apartments were built and they're sitting empty because they're not allowed to lower the rent because of the finance.
And I believe it was Pattern for Progress's report that said that apartments at 80 and 100% AMI are currently sitting largely empty.
I don't remember the project that was in front of us, but I do remember the applicant mentioning that they were fine with a certain amount of affordable housing because they were planning on charging below affordable housing for everything in the project anyway. Which that right there makes me question if that affordable rate is too high. If they're coming in and saying, we're charging below that anyway.
That was the development that we did the site visit on. 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Is this being proposed just by the whole common council, or how does this get, is this just?
It's in committee.
It was approved by the Community Development and Housing Committee. As well as the
So you
finance.
got referred. So you have also received the memo from the Director of Housing Initiatives. Kyla sent that along with the staff notes as well. And obviously now you've got the county comments also. I know that in the housing director's email, he asked a few pertinent questions. So there, with the new requirements, will new housing projects still be financially feasible? I don't know, has any study been done or research been done on how this would affect developers? I mean, most of the developers that we see coming in with full affordable projects are those that are getting subsidized. They're the not-for-profits, they're the Rupcos, the Family of Woodstock. We don't see a lot of private developers coming in with 100%, affordable workforce. Although Baxter at 615 is saying that they are going to be doing more than what the requirement is in the code. And there will be 100% at least workforce. So that's not typical. Usually we're looking at the smaller developers, and that's where I'm thinking, when you're talking like 7-10 units, has there been a study or any research done on whether or not those types of projects can support the 60%?
50%.
AMI
50%.
or 50% AMI?
I don't see how they can carry something out like that. I just know that there are other ways to get incentives. There's, from my understanding, is the developers are just going through incentives through the city right now. There would be other incentives available if they want to go through the county. They could get mortgage tax, help with that. They could get sales tax, rebates on, supplies for building that are not being offered now.
And I would just point out that the development that you cited is willing to go beyond the number of units required for workforce housing because they can charge up to $3,500 for a one-bedroom apartment. So of course they're gonna say yes to that when they're charging, again, above fair market rate.
That was another point I was making. Yeah.
Like, yes, they're willing to say yes to this because we're gonna reward them for charging more money than any other landlord in the city of Kingston would.
You're proposing the minimum is 6, correct?
No, that's the county.
What is
That's
the
the county.
what is
The current is 7.
current is 7, is that what's being
Right,
proposed?
so the county is proposing that the T will be amended that way.
Correct, but the city right now is 7,
It's 7.
and you're proposing to stay at 7?
Yes.
Now, is this just for multifamily buildings, or is this for housing developments as well?
It's rentals,
Just rentals,
yeah.
nothing,
We don't do subdivisions, if that's what you're asking.
yeah, I mean, if somebody came in and said, I want to do a 20-lot subdivision, are we requiring them to do a certain?
No, we don't have that now. This is
Okay.
only rentals. So the next question that the housing director said, well, how many affordable housing units do you believe would be generated by the change? I don't know if we can predict
I
that.
don't
or
think
if
he
you
can predict.
Thought about it.
I don't
or-
think he could predict that number on the first go around. It's hard to predict. I mean, he even said in this that there's no, the research on the impact of inclusionary zonings on the private market is inconclusive. And no consensus has been reached regarding whether these policies hinder development or raise prices. So it's sort of like I find this letter a little contradictory.
Okay. And the last one we somewhat touched on, Robert kind of, is there evidence from other jurisdictions or academic research that the new requirement will work? So that was, obviously Albany if Albany's at 60, have you spoken? I haven't spoken with anybody in Albany, so I didn't realize that they had this.
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear back from a council member.
Okay.
To see.
So how did you come up with like 50 versus 40 or 60? Like, how did you come to that?
Based on our city's AMI and where people fall in. And jobs fall, this is from the Department of Labor, different jobs and what they make earn in a year.
Have you reached out to any of the other communities around, other towns about what your concerns are here? Because, you know, this goes back decades where the city just seems to be always taking on the lion's share of housing problems, and none of the other communities around are doing anything. And I know that there's some proposed housing projects coming to the town of Ulster soon. There's no such thing even talked about in the town of Ulster. So this has been going on, and I remember Mary Ann Parker would bring that banner with her. It could be, the city has historically been the one footing, you know, taking on the burden of a lot of things, and housing is one of them.
Yeah, I'm on the county's housing smart initiatives for Kingston, which, you know, Bartek leads, and the county has given all of the towns the opportunity to participate and provided goals like pass, you know, the rent stabilization, change zoning code. You know, we've done most of it. The other towns aren't doing anything. I know.
When you look at these US labor statistics, is this for the state of New York? Or is
No,
this
it's for Kingston.
It just looks so low.
I can actually email you the whole.
No, that's fine. I mean, for what I do for a living, I see what people make a year.
Right, it's kind of shocking, right?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's accurate, because I see what people make on a daily basis, and these numbers are very low.
That's from the Department of Labor, when you put Kingston in, that's what comes up.
Those are 23 to 2023 or?
Yeah, those are the latest
census?
numbers, yeah.
Okay. Thoughts, comments from board members?
Well, I mean, I think that the housing prices are, I think this is a supply problem, right? That's not, I think it's a regulation issue. My concern is if we go lower, who's gonna wanna come in and develop? Who's gonna wanna spend the money to develop properties if they're not gonna be able to get the rents that they think they should be getting? You know, that's been a discussion.
Yeah, I mean, they can just go down to Ulster and build something. I mean, it's just, you know, it's a hop, skip, and a jump to avoid your rule. And I'm not saying your rule is right or wrong, it's just, it's all about money. It's just.
And these are discussions that we have with applicants that's coming through with big projects, you know? So
there's, so Austin, Texas was a city that had rapid gentrification, and they didn't have any affordable housing mandates, and thousands of units were built unregulated. And it still never, it solved the supply problem, but it never fixed the affordability.
No, but you also look at New York City that's had rent regulations for years, and the buildings are falling down because the prices of everything. I mean, I was a landlord. I mean, insurance goes up, Central Hudson, like all these bills just keep going up, and they're going up faster than the rents are going up. And I know everyone's complaining about the rents, but the cost of doing business is exorbitant. The taxes are exorbitant. The city of Kingston taxes are exorbitant. You're one of the few cities in the state that has a homestead, non-homestead. Every commercial project is paying double the tax rate.
I pay $24,000 a year.
I pay $26,000 in taxes on basically a Victorian house that sits on Bear Street because it's commercial. It's outrageous. But when you have $26,000 a year in taxes
and you've got rents that are only $2,000 a month, which I know we say only, but how many months have to go by in order to make that $26,000 tax bill? And that doesn't include heat, electric, repairs, maintenance, upkeep, vacancies, damage. It's just, again, it goes back just as the cost of doing business. And as a business person, I just struggle with, it's great to lower and make these mandates, but you're gonna have people that are just gonna say, this is too much, I'm skipping town and go to a different town. And then that affects long-term housing as a whole, because we get no housing. So that's just my struggle.
I don't know, I feel if the AMI is based on all of Ulster County, it is clearly different than in Kingston. Something needs to change there.
So you're suggesting, we're thinking that rather than using the AMI, use a different standard?
You have to look at the population density too.
I mean, can we look at, I mean, I know you provide
Well,
numbers for
yeah,
AMI, just in
if you-
Kingston,
if
can
you
we
look
look at
at-
just AMI for
We
Kingston?
looked at the county comment, one of the things that Dennis did mention, or the county planning board mentions, is the American Community Survey. And, it looks at it identifies the median household income for the county versus the city. So there is a number out there specific to the city. And perhaps using that, if that's in 2022, that was 62,071. I know I looked it up for 23 as well, and it was slightly higher. And I mean, I don't know how real it is because they say it's inflation adjusted dollars. It goes up to 65,000. Seems like a pretty large jump for just inflation adjustment, but that could be possible. It's a $10,000 plus or minus margin of error. It's a big margin of error too, I think, but. I mean, maybe that is something to take a look at to see if that would make a difference. If we're using that number versus the AMI, which is, a larger area.
That's the
Yeah.
problem in Kingston. We're a city, but we're basically a very small community surrounded by other communities that are really part of.
Right, but
Outside of
if you use a number that's specific to the city of Kingston,
No, but it's
that's
hard to
more
say,
fair,
but
it's
it-
more appropriate, and then maybe it might not be so, maybe
But-
the percentage might not be the issue, maybe it's the base that you're working off of.
But it's hard to say, because if you're in a normal urban environment like Albany has different sections of the city that are residential, non-residential, low income, high income. The city of Kingston is a very small geographic area, and when you look at like the town of Ulster, that would be in a typical city, the suburb of the same city. So you yes, you can look at Kingston, but you kind of have to wrap it out a little bit, because we're so small geographically. When you look at the city of Rochester or the city of Albany, they have much larger areas with all different types of businesses, industry, residential, non-residential, where we have it, but it's not technically the city.
I also just wanted to share this. I mean, when we're talking about 80% AMI being affordable, the range is for low income is 50 to 80. And then 80 to 120 is workforce. So it's like we're just choosing the very, very top of this spectrum.
Does that spectrum constantly change?
And that stays.
But isn't there some sort of evaluation on affordable workforce? Like, doesn't that change though, depending on multiple factors? That can't be a number that's just
Very top end,
set.
Well, it's gonna be, it can be shifted to accommodate what your local.
Right, so like when you have, like, we've seen a lot of people come through with multiple projects, this last year, it seems like that's what we've been doing. The
Yeah, we're
developer
kind of talking
was
about
brought
this
up
range right
before,
here.
the housing project that we did the site visit on.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a conversation with him about what is affordable housing, and we were talking about how that changes, like you have to stay within a certain range and you have to make sure that you're complying with that. Is that?
Well, you're talking about the Boulevard project?
Yeah.
Is that the one you're asking about? Yeah, I mean, when, right now, the way the form-based code is written, there are minimum, requirements for the developer to provide affordable units. They kick in at 7, okay? So once you hit, you're building 7 units, you're required then to provide a certain amount of affordable. And that table that's in the code, it spells out as the number of units increases, there's a percentage of workforce units that then have to be also provided. And the minimum levels of affordability, when your project is adopted, say you get, you have 10 units that you're building, you have to provide 10% affordable. That gets entered into a agreement. It's a deed restricted covenant agreement that the city enters into with you. And as long as that property continues to be used for residential purposes, you have to demonstrate that you are
Complying with
you are
that.
complying with that, yes.
But when a developer, when that doesn't actually affect what they're gonna charge for all of theirs, it kind of loses its meaning. When a developer says, yeah, you can make me have 10 units be affordable, all of mine are, I'm charging under affordable. Just,
That's the develop, I mean, they can do that. There's
Yeah.
nothing that says they can't.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
just-
they
it
just
just-
have to, right, yes. They need to, they are basically deed restricted with the minimum.
Yeah.
Or if they are getting certain types of funding, sometimes those grant funds, they also come with certain restrictions, and they have to provide maybe a higher level, depending on the funding source.
I am a little lost, I'm gonna admit, because I'm confused as to the matrix that is used and who crafts that number. The number, there's workforce and there's affordable, right? So what in the law states this is what's considered workforce, this is what's considered affordable, and what data is used to determine that, and how often does that change?
It's not a who are you, it's it's basically income based.
Right, so
Okay, so
what's the measuring tool for that, like, as far as like determining what that number is?
well, you start with the AMI, which is the average medium income, okay? The area median income.
Okay.
And that is a number that is determined by HUD, okay? HUD does that annually, all right? So in our code, if you make 80% of what that number is, say it's 10,000 for simple numbers, 80% would be 8,000, okay? If you make $8,000, then you would qualify for affordable housing. And your housing has to be 30% of that 80%. That's your maximum amount that you should be spending for housing. Okay?
45.
Right, and HUD breaks it down to family sizes as well. So if you're a 1-person, a 2-person family, a 3-person family, HUD basically puts out what that dollar value is for that income. And then it's 30% of that is what you should be spending on your housing and what your rent should be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and 120% of the area median income is what the, so your median income is basically at 100, right? And so the 10,000 again, so it would be 12,000, 120%.
So you take the city of Kingston and you take the population of the city of Kingston and you have a large number of higher earning income people that move here, that percentage is going to change.
So, right, so what, as they were saying, the change in the area median income in the last few years has, in Ulster County, has risen dramatically. So the area median income, what may have used to be, say it was 40,000, is now 60,000. And so that, but the population, those people are still here. The population has changed, but if you're basing it on the median income, that number has risen. So those people aren't making the extra income that the influx of new individuals are. And they still cannot afford what is considered affordable.
And that number has risen disproportionately in Ulster County compared to Kingston, and we're, I guess, still going off of Ulster County's AMA when Kingston has not kept up with Ulster County.
Right. So that's where the county planning board is pointing out that you might want to look at, rather than AMI using this other number that's specific to the city of Kingston, it may be more appropriate to look at that in terms of stating what the definition is. I don't know.
That makes sense to me, because that's where
Yeah, I mean, to use your community's actual numbers.
Right.
Rather than, it's like saying Kingston should use, New York State, it's not the same.
Yeah, and based on what I do for a living, I can see the people coming into this area, and when you look at the surrounding communities, there's a tremendous
Yeah.
amount of New
I
York
mean,
City
I'm willing
high
to,
wealth that's
I'm willing to
pumping
flush
all these
that, maybe we could flush that out. Obviously, it would be, I would have to ask the older persons that are here, to take a look at that and think about that, and then maybe next month, if they would allow us, we have a time.
I was just gonna ask Matt if there's, like, I know when other applicants put something in for zoning, there's like a 90-day.
Yeah.
I don't know if that applies to us when we're.
Do we have to make a decision on that tonight?
Well, unless it's, if there's mutual agreement that they won't move forward, if we look at this as an option, potentially. There is I want to say 45 days. But hang on.
We issue a decision tonight, they can come back and just to look into what you're looking at right now.
Yeah, 45 days from the referral.
We got the referral on the 23rd of October. Here's me.
So I don't know if the 45 days would be
We're gonna.
to the December 16th meeting. They're consenting, then maybe they would allow it to extend to the December meeting. I don't know. And then you can take a look at that other option, also look at what the county is saying, because the county is also recommending adjusting table numbers. So instead of 7, I think our first one starts at 7:10, this is 7:20. Yeah.
I thought they meant just the actual,
No, they're saying the project size, we have the first project size 7 to 19, they have 6 to 20. And then we have 20 to 49, and they go 21 to 49, and then we have 50 or more. So it's a minor adjustment in numbers there. I don't know that that's significant. Their percentages change with the 21 to 49. We have 15%, they have 15%, we have 10% now affordable and 5% workforce. And they, as required, and they just have a 15% affordable, no workforce. And then for the 50 or more, we currently have 10% affordable and 10% workforce, and they have 15% affordable and 10% workforce. So
They're also proposing differences, percentages of each of those 10%, that 10%.
Right.
They're proposing 30% be at 50% and 70% be at 80. It looks like they're
Why
also.
was this still not proposed when it got vetted the first time?
I think this is their original comments.
this is their original comments from
The
2022.
common council did agree with it.
Right.
Well, I mean, if they didn't agree with the first time, they're likely not gonna agree with it the second time. Especially if it's-
We have 5 new members. I didn't agree with it. I asked for the resolution for this piece to be separate, and I was a no vote.
I mean, no matter what numbers we're gonna come up with, between now and when we're gonna meet again, I just don't know if my mind will change, because I'm like, my bottom line concern is that, we're gonna stifle development by going any lower. That's, just be honest with you, that's my.
I agree with that.
And I have to agree with that as well, and I think that the city really needs to take a hard look at their budgets and their tax structure, because there's other ways of reducing expenses that will lower rents. It's just not about housing and rent. I mean, if the rent is going up because the expenses and taxes are going up, the cost of everything is going up, fees are going up.
And is there a way that, I'm sure you've had discussions with the executive branch, I mean, it doesn't seem like you're on the same page with this. Is there any consensus you see coming out of, looking at this further, like the numbers we're talking about now, whether?
We just got this, so I
Okay.
can't see.
Yeah.
That's gonna be, that's a big one too, right?
I mean, at this point in time, I think either the applicants ask us to vote on it with not having the information that we need, or if they're willing to extend the date because they want to go back and review this with their other colleagues and come back to us next meeting, then we'll discuss it next meeting. That's really not a choice that we can make.
What is the time schedule for this going before the common council?
Well, we still have to have a hearing, a public hearing. And then it would go before, back to the committee.
Has the public hearing been scheduled?
No, because we were waiting for all the comments to come back.
So laws and rules would hold the public hearing, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
This came out of,
Yeah,
community development
community
and housing, but
yeah.
the laws and rules still has to have the hearing.
So will they look at it as a tacit approval because we haven't issued a yea or a nay on this? That's what we're asking?
Yeah, I mean, legally, I need to defer to
Yeah,
Matt.
pretty much. If you haven't provided an opinion, not, basically, not opposing it.
It's a tacit approval.
Yeah. But it's up to you guys how you wish to proceed, but you have to proceed within those 45 days unless the applicant's looking
So, but if we-
time to provide more information.
Can we do that?
I didn't hear what Matt said at the end.
Unless the applicants are looking to waive time to provide more information to the board.
I don't know if you can speak for the rest of the council on that, whether.
I mean, we just received Dennis's comments today, so, we all saw it at the same time. So the council has not even seen this recommendation.
I'm prepared to vote on this, and then if they, as a council, decide that they want to review this and come back to us with a new referral and new changes, then I would be more than happy to relook at it. currently, right now, I'm prepared to vote.
Okay.
I don't know how the other board feels.
Yeah, let's give them the vote. If they want to change it, then we could, you know, we go back on it.
Be more than happy to relook at it. There's new numbers or new information, but at this point, based on the information I have,
I mean, we're not looking at this as an adversarial relationship.
I know.
I hope they're not viewing it that way. We're under a time frame.
I respect that, I respect the idea that like you have to get units
Yeah.
built, I respect that, but I hope that you can respect the idea
And I-
that
and I-
we want to build units that people can afford to live in, so,
I get that, I
Yeah.
get that, so, and I'm glad you folks appeared here tonight, so,
yeah.
to plead the case, so, all right, any other questions from the board? All right, so, I mean, I'm gonna make a motion that we, issue a negative report to the common council, and my reasoning is we spent $500,000 on a zoning change this has been addressed. I don't want further development to be stifled. And I am looking towards Bartek's comments here and agree with him at this time in issuing a negative report. So I'm making a motion that we issue a negative report to the common council at this time.
I'll second that.
Second by Robert Jacobson. Wayne Platt is so if we vote yes or
Any
negative.
discussion?
Yeah, any
We're going yes on the negative or no on the negative.
A yes vote will be for a negative.
It's a double entendre.
Has any discussion on the motion? Okay. Wayne Platt is a yes. Charles Palaco?
Is a yes.
Steve Newkirk?
Yes.
Vince Archer?
Yes.
Robert Jacobson?
Yes.
Okay, that is unanimous, so. We'll look forward to having you come back, and, so thank you folks for coming. Is there any other business before the board?
No.
Any other? No? Robert Jacobson with a motion to adjourn. Chuck Palaka with a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.